Hi, welcome back to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Ron Callis, the CEO and co-founder of OneFirefly. Ron Callis is a marketing expert and industry authority specializing in strategic sales, digital marketing, and business development. OneFirefly is an award-winning marketing solution for technology professionals and has been operating since 2007. I hope you enjoyed this episode. What was life like much earlier on? How did you kind of get into OneFirefly first?
So I spent about 7 years in that industry on the manufacturer side, originally with Lutron and then a company called Crestron. And in 2007, I had this kind of, call it fire in my belly, this entrepreneurial urge, as folks write about in books. And I said, hey, I think the time is now. I had minimal liabilities or obligations in life. I was married, but I didn't have any children. And so I ended up starting the business, Firefly Design Group, initially as an engineering company to provide white label outsource engineering services, proposal design, pre-engineering documentation, and then proper engineering documentation and CAD detailing for these contractors, these technology contracting businesses throughout North America. And very early on that business, I realized that I needed to help upgrade the brand representation of these customers, these businesses. And so very quickly and early on, I got into the marketing game, initially by hiring a graphic designer and doing logo work and brochure work and then website work. And then what became marketing work, social media management, email management, all of that for these same businesses. And then fast forward to 2015. So I had been in the game for about 8 years and had multiple divisions of the business, but just due to getting a little bit smarter, ultimately landed at the idea to close down these harder, less profitable, harder to scale divisions of the business and to fully double down on the marketing space. And by that time, we had rebranded to what is called OneFirefly. Right. And that's the brand we operate under today. We've properly operated under that brand since 2012. And today in North America, we're the largest agency of record that serves this technology contracting space.
Right. And one question that I wanted to kind of get into is back when you had started all this and the couple of years that you had to, really pick it up, you might have had a few doubts with yourself that maybe this might not work out, or maybe I might have to put in more money from here or there, or it might go into losses. If those thoughts did come up, how did you kind of deal with them and move on to, carry on your vision?
I had plenty of fire in my belly and belief in myself that I could make a go of it and work hard. And I've never been afraid to work hard or theoretically work harder than others around me. And so I felt, due to some of my quote unquote earlier successes in sales, now I was, young and less wise, but I was successful, you could argue, in terms of achieving the obligations I had around my regional sales management job, both at Lutron and Crestron, where I was, generally in the top tier of my peers, my selling peers, tier teams that were also selling either around North America or around the world. And so I felt that my work ethic and my kind of modality or method of communicating and working with others would lead to positive outcomes. So it's a long way to say I believed in myself. And, but of course I was scared. I was terrified. Right. And, but when you encounter fear, you can either hunker down in the corner and cower down, or you can charge forward and attack your fear. And that's what I did. That's what I've always done my whole life. And so right. I did the best that I could do at that time with the knowledge I had. I read as many books as I could. I had not yet discovered podcasts. YouTube had not yet been invented, or if it had, it wasn't widely used. Again, this is back in 2007. And I wrote a business plan, and I cashed out my little 7 years worth of retirement savings. I think it was around $40,000. And I did a friends and family round of gathering some money. I think I gathered another, I don't remember exactly, maybe another $20,000 to $40,000, where money that I would owe back to people, but I had borrowed it. They had let me borrow it. And I started the business and put up a shingle, and I would do it very differently today. But then I went and signed a 3-year lease in an office space. I went and, put 2 full-time people on my payroll, and I fully burdened myself with obligations that it was either, sink or swim. And I wasn't into sinking. So I just, hell or high water, was going to find a way to swim. And if for anyone, that was around at that time, 2007, specifically the late 2007, was about 6 months before the Great Recession. So 2008, the big Great Recession, which was, lasted for about 2 to 3 years. Particularly, I'll speak from North America here. It was terribly hard. A lot of, challenges for many people in business. And that's where my business modalities were forged, right? In fire. It was succeed or fail. And there were many a Thursday where payroll was due on Friday, and I did not yet have the money for payroll in my bank account on Thursday. Many a Thursday where that was true. And all that meant for me was that I wasn't done. And I needed to call more people and do what I needed to do to get the deal so that I'd have the work so that I could make my payroll. And that's, it's something I'm very proud of, is I've always made payroll. We're doing great now. We're a bigger company with more momentum and mass behind us. But even those early days, just the work ethic of, make one more call, one more meeting, whatever it takes to get the deal so that I could keep going forward. That's kind of where this all began.
So what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in our industry from back in the day to now?
Well, and this might sound silly to some folks listening. If you look at the way OneFirefly was born as an agency, it was very much born and functioning not because I would even consider myself in the marketing space. I know it seems odd, but it's really about frame of mind and kind of the way one thinks about business and thinks about doing what you do every day. I would, until the last even 3 or 4 years, I would call myself in the custom integration industry, which is the vertical space that I serve. Some of the marketers listening might be operating in some niche, right? Maybe they serve lawyers, maybe they serve dentists. And then some of the marketers are generalist, right? They'll serve anybody that is in their geography or within their city or their region. But we're a niche agency. And so I've served the same customer for 25 years, right? So I have tremendous focus on understanding them and understanding their customers so that I can best serve them with marketing. So the products and the services that we've offered since going back to 2008, which is when we started to even have some, I guess you'd call it marketing services. We started to help people with brochures and logo design. Our business has evolved tremendously since then. And much of what we've done has been gathered by, frankly, reading books, listening to podcasts, or just doing what we thought would logically help the customer without, certainly early on, necessarily studying the thought leaders on the national or the global scale. A lot of the people you've had on this podcast, some of the brightest minds in SEO and digital marketing, I didn't know who any of those people were. I didn't study or read anything they wrote. Initially, we just did things that we thought made sense. We said, it probably makes sense to help our customers email their customers with good educational content. That's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea to have a website that looks attractive and has beautiful imagery and video. And, it would be even really neat if pictures of their projects and maybe their people doing the work on their websites, it would probably be a good idea. It would probably be a good idea to have regular cadence of content going on social media so that if people that have been referred to them are going on the social platforms and are, reference checking them or using those social platforms as an additional research path, it'd probably be a good idea if they looked professional and were consistently on those platforms. It would probably be a good idea if someone was searching online and when they did that search, they found that business on page 1. It probably would be a good idea when they found that business that their Google profile was accurate and up to date and had positive reviews.
Yeah.
So this business was very much born in a bubble of just doing what made common sense to myself and my leaders in terms of what would be best for our customer to help raise their visibility and authority to their customer base. Okay. I don't know that answers your question, but maybe it gives a bit of perspective as to how this business was born. And maybe that's different than the way some other businesses have come about.
It does answer the question, but I think maybe I'll refine it a bit. Has it changed any much now in the recent days? I still do believe that logic and common sense is what's going to drive most of the things. But do you feel that's still true?
I think the world has changed dramatically. If you go back to November 2022, ChatGPT being unleashed on the world, many business owners, perhaps like myself, were initially in utter fear, thinking maybe the entire marketing industry would be put out of business overnight. Certainly all my 17 years of building this business were theoretically immediately at risk. And then we started to, I say we, my leadership team and I at OneFirefly started to brainstorm what might happen, again, practicing our prediction skills, our prediction muscles, like what might happen as a result of this. And that quickly led us to assumptions or hypotheses that there might be a lot more content getting pumped out on Google and onto the internet because people have this cheat code of putting out content, regardless of its quality, but putting out volumes of content on the internet. And if that assumption was true, that Google and the landscape of search would likely be changing. And if it changed, it probably would try to go towards a framework where legitimate businesses and legitimate, unique, original, valuable content on the internet would be more valuable than poor quality content. It just seemed logical to us. And so at OneFirefly, we actually put together a greater deal of focus around search engine optimization and what our product mix was. So we actually, in 2023, started to double down on investment and people, both investment in time and acquiring of people and research, right? What were all the smartest people in the industry and in the world saying about this subject in order to put together, formulas, proprietary approaches to creating content and ultimately helping our customers be more visible on the internet. My customer serves a luxury consumer, and there's ways that luxury consumer goes about a purchasing decision. So, looking at the buyer journey and looking at where they're online, where they're doing research, what are they researching, what type of information are they trying to gather as they're trying to make a decision on putting a home theater in their home or, whatever the technology inside the house or outside the house is. And that led to a greater attention to really all aspects of SEO, local SEO, on-site SEO, technical SEO, off-site SEO, and really rounding out our product offering and services for our clients in a way that I would just say pre-ChatGPT did not require as much, in our opinion, this could be a subjective statement that people could argue with, did not require as much attention to get our customers' website or content onto page one of search. And we believe it's valuable and important to be on page one of search amongst other, within that genre of someone doing research. A lot of, 70% plus of people are going onto the internet and doing some sort of search. With that statement as true, then if you're a local business providing services within some radius of your brick and mortar office or warehouse, then it's important that the consumer doing research is able to find you. And we have to do a lot more today in 2024 and a lot of things differently in 2024 than we had to do prior.
Yeah, but in relation to that, when it comes to ChatGPT, apart from, let's say, creating content and, let's say, optimizing it a bit, are there any other ways that we can probably use this tool and other AI tools to kind of help us with our marketing, or at least maybe starting and doing the processes for your business?
I think ChatGPT, well, let me back up. Paul Rotzer of, a good thought leader and educator around things that are AI. And he has a great podcast, by the way, that I'll refer. The Artificial Intelligence Show. So Paul Rotzer and Mike Kaput, they have something called the AI Institute. And, he's coined a phrase that, marketers that use AI will replace marketers that don't use AI. Right. And so I think, AI encompasses a lot of things today, and it's going to continue to advance at a lightning pace, ChatGPT just being one of a whole portfolio of tools. I think there's boundless ways that one should be using tools such as ChatGPT in your business day to day. My role at OneFirefly is to, as the visionary within the company, is to see the larger landscape that changes afoot and to ultimately bring my team. I have a team of 80 professional marketers, and they're the day-to-day tacticians. So I can give you high-level philosophies and ways that we're structuring, bringing AI into the business. And we formed an AI council, and we have AI R&D happening up and down, both on the product side and on the operations side of the business. And so in that way, we've been at the forefront of finding the ways to incorporate AI into our business. Going back to last spring, not that we weren't using some tools that had AI kind of behind the scenes for years, but in a much more aggressive and purposeful way, dealing with the hard work of change management and getting our business to very abruptly, but very necessarily think about incorporating AI into all aspects of the business. That work's been ongoing since, last spring and really started to heat up last summer to the present.
Right. If you don't mind, can we maybe run through a little bit of the basics of using ChatGPT? Because I feel like a lot of people just try to input, hey, write me an article on XYZ, and that's where they leave it at. Is there maybe a different approach that you guys use? Or
for my business owners out there that are listening, there's an opportunity. I'll just share with you something that we've done, and then I'll get to the granular technical question you just asked. Okay. Which is, if you're serving your customers, you know who your customer is within your business. The reality is a lot of people in business, whether small, medium, or large business, a lot of those professionals aren't always going out of their way to learn new ways to use tools like ChatGPT. So what we've done, and we decided at OneFirefly to do this very early on, going back to January of 23, we started to take a position within our industry as the AI educators. So we started to research. For example, you're asking a tactical question: how do I use ChatGPT? What is a good prompt in prompt building or prompt? What are the applications of use? And then how exactly can I use it? We started to develop that framework in educational content and develop it into webinars, into industry periodicals, trade show talks, keynotes, and that work has been ongoing really since January of 23 to the present. So within my industry, OneFirefly is very much considered at the tip of the spear of what's going on in AI. And that was done strategically to empower and position OneFirefly in the conversation when AI is being brought up, because at the same time, to us marketers, AI is a threat. It's a threat that if our customers were to use AI and or to perceive that they could use AI, it could harm our businesses, because they could say, well, I don't need my marketing professional in my life. I can do these things in-house. Now, I will challenge that. I'll challenge the accuracy of that statement. I think there's a lot more to marketing than just typing in a prompt and getting a blog article. There's the strategy behind it, and all of the work effort to be an organized, integrated marketer that's helping your client grow in visibility and business and lead gen. But the perception is there, right, for disintermediation, which is where the marketer could be disintermediated. So we saw that as a potential threat to our business. And so we positioned ourselves as the AI experts, which brings us to just a couple of months ago, I was teaching a workshop for professionals, the small business owners in my industry. And at that workshop, I was teaching people about prompt engineering within ChatGPT. And I was surprised, is the best way to put it, as to how little the business owners have actually gone out of their way to learn how to do this and to learn to think about all the different, number one, roles and applications within their business where utilizing a large language model, natural language model, could ultimately benefit them, make things a little bit faster, better, stronger, better research, better analysis, better evaluation, better brainstorming, better ideation, to allow them to go about whatever that task is. Right. And so very quick and tactically, any prompt, and there are great guides out there, by the way. Maybe you could even link to it in the show notes. There's a great guide from Google Gemini. They put it out a couple months ago, which is literally a step-by-step guide on how to properly prompt a large language model. And so I've disseminated that guide. It's free to all of my staff, and I've pointed people in my industry to it as well. So it's a good cheat sheet. But the general premise is you want to tell the large language model who you are, not who you are, the person typing, but who you want the AI prompt results to be coming from. You are a expert data analyst. You are a 30-year veteran CFO, expert at financial analysis. You are a conversion copywriter that has been practicing for 20 years, and you know all the best practices for conversion copywriting on landing pages. You are a social media expert, tactician, and you understand how to help your customers connect with their audiences, right? So you tell the AI who you are, and then you tell it the circumstance. You tell it, what background information you might need to upload information, buyer personas, company personas. You then tell it what output you want, and then you tell it what format you want that output. So a properly constructed prompt can look like either multiple prompt statements, or it can be a larger paragraph. It's not just write me a blog article on how to develop floral bouquets, right? You're going to garbage in is garbage out. But if you're able to give a large language model a good prompt, better yet, if you're able to give it good examples of what you consider quality, then the output of that large language model is going to be significantly better. I'll just give an example personally. I will often, not always, but I will often go to ChatGPT. By the way, we at OneFirefly, we operate on what's called a Teams account, which means all of our training data that we're loading, all of my staff are utilizing within ChatGPT. It's not being the larger data set is not being trained into the model. Therefore, any proprietary information from my business or my customers, none of that's being shared open source with the rest of the world. So I would be very mindful. That's a bit of a tangent on what your company's data policies are, and whether what large language model you're using, and whether the information that you're inputting could theoretically expose or put your company in liability, or your customers' information in places that it shouldn't be. And that if you did that, your company's liable. And if your staff is doing that, your company is still liable. So with that said, that's why we operate in a Teams environment where that's locked down, and we have at least some sense of security.
I'm kind of glad you mentioned it, because I might need to make a note of that later for our own account. But yeah,
people can go if they want to understand. There's another principle to that, which is what's your company's data and privacy and AI policy.
right.
People can go to OneFirefly.com, and I want to say in the footer of my website, I have our privacy policy or AI policy. I'll make sure that's true when this show goes live. So if people want to see at least what our policy is now, I would recommend anyone go and run that by their own counsel. We had our counsel help us develop that policy.
Okay. Have you ever come across customers who have, let's say, an avoidance towards AI?
It is because we're so early on. I think there's a lot of lack of awareness and ignorance to what it is and how to use it. I also think with the practitioners, there's a lot of misuse of it. So some of that fear and anxiety is deserved. I mean, just because we're so early on, if you go back to the invention of the automobile in the late 1800s, there were a lot of people that were resistant to these gas guzzling automobiles, and they said, how dare you? I'm going to ride my horse and buggy.
Pretty much.
And there were other people that embraced the automobile as innovation and new technology. And, by the 1920s or 1930s, there were a heck of a lot of horse and buggies on the road and a heck of a lot more automobiles on the road. But there's some period of transition in society and in business. And I think we're right at the beginning of that transition happening in society. And so I think in some ways there are absolutely resistance, and it just requires education from your business. Your business needs to take a stance. How do you use this technology? And then how do you train and talk to your customers about how you use this technology? And that's what that gets into our position as educators around AI within our industry. And so we're attempting, every day just to be in front of that situation, be proactive versus reactive.
Right. When it comes to other AI tools, I think we both can agree that ChatGPT is one of the top ones. Do you have any other AI tools that you'd like to maybe recommend or give a shout out to?
Yeah, I tell you, my team is using all sorts of tools. And I'll preface that within ChatGPT, right? I mean, they embedded DALL-E, right? The generative imagery capabilities. So previous to them embedding it, I was, dabbling in Midjourney. I say personally, right? I'm the CEO of an 80-person company, so I'm not day to day doing the tactical marketing work. Right. And that's different than a lot of the people maybe listening to this podcast. Maybe they're the day-to-day practitioners or technicians. I'm not doing that. And so it's really, what is my team doing day to day? My team is experimenting in different ways with content creation and research. They're experimenting with Gemini. They're experimenting with Claude. They are, I'll give an example within my Google Ads team. They've been utilizing for the last year. I'll probably get the name wrong, but I think there's a piece of software called Shapeways, which is an AI intelligence tool that helps with budgeting of Google ad campaigns, right? So it helps with making sure that you're equally distributing your spend over the course of some period. In our case, like the month, we want an effective distribution of ad spend over a month period. And that AI tool helps enable us to do a better job there. But yeah, that's the specific details of what software. That's going to be my team. I know we're using the heck out of ChatGPT. I can tell you that
Right.
inside, both on client side work and as well as operations. I can give an example of one of my team members operationally using ChatGPT. And, we have a team, an IT department that is IT and project management, and they are in charge and they own the ongoing development within our CRM. We use Zoho and as our CRM, and we use a lot of different applications and plugins within Zoho. And the gentleman that runs that side of our business, his name's Cameron. He is regularly using ChatGPT to help write code that is then enables him to better leverage custom data configurations within the SQL database and the back end of Zoho to make more and more automations and customizations happen. So that's an example. Cameron's not a software developer, but yet by using natural language direction into ChatGPT, he's able to get code output that is then able to make really magical things happen within our CRM. And, alternatively, either that would not happen or you'd have to use an outsourced contractor to do that. And in this case, he's able to do that because of this new superpower that he's gained.
Yeah, kind of different from how it was before. Nowadays, there are a lot of ways to learn and research on yourself on how to do AI or how to, kind of get into language learning models. Is there any other way where, let's say me as a complete novice, where I can kind of start off and get a good traction of how to use AI and where are the benefits of using it?
I think you have to start consuming podcasts. You have to start watching YouTube videos. You need to start watching webinars. There's a great conference. Again, I mentioned Paul Rotzer and Mike Kaput. They put on an AI marketing agency conference. It'll be in September this year. It's called MAICON, MAICON. Okay. That's a great conference. If anyone wants to travel to Cleveland, Ohio, that's where the conference is. It was last year. It was in July. This year it'll be in September. But I would, the way to start is to start. It's like when you start a gym routine and, you're out of shape and you don't have any cardio and your muscles aren't strong. And going to the gym that first day is just going to totally stink. You got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you keep doing it. And then you do it day 2 and day 3. And then you do it week 2 and week 3. And then you do it month 1 and month 2 and month 3. And it just starts to get easier and you gain momentum. And that's for, your people listening, thinking about incorporating it into their day-to-day, whether they're executives or, operational people within a business or marketers. But then more importantly, within business and teams, it's about getting the teams actively experimenting and R&Ding what's possible. I mean, there are tens of thousands of new tools available today that weren't around 2 years ago. Yeah. It's thoroughly overwhelming and intimidating to anybody. I consume a couple hours of this content daily and I'm overwhelmed and intimidated. And so you just have to embrace the fear, embrace the imposter syndrome and just go, I'm just going to start and I'm going to start listening to some content, watching some content, consuming it and practicing it. And personally, I try to have a reason to use ChatGPT every day. And for any random number of activities or research efforts or content ideation. And, we here at OneFirefly, this is a bit tangential, but, we have a new division of our business called Amplify People, where we're helping with talent sourcing of our customer, the industry and the customer we serve. We've got a new division that's doing HR and hiring and talent sourcing, onboarding, and management for businesses. And within that business, we were trying to structure some new language for some PowerPoint presentations, not PowerPoint, but Google Slide sales decks for our sales team and account management teams to use. And I was with the director of that business, and she and I were coming up with ideation and frameworks, and we were posing it into ChatGPT, and we were refining our ideas and our language and the method that we were communicating. And ultimately that was making its way into our presentation, and it was just expediting and enhancing the process. So it isn't that we were asking ChatGPT for the answer and then copying and pasting, not at all. But we were telling it who we were. We told it who our business was. We told it the customer we served. We told it the outcomes that we wanted to achieve. And we told it that we wanted help with guidelines and frameworks of how to break it down and make it easy to understand. And that when you properly construct a well constructed prompt, the output is magic. Because now, it is as if you have the smartest intern you've ever had by your side from the top university, and they are right there. They're incredibly capable, but they're only as good as the direction you give them. But if you give them very good direction, they can give you very good outputs. And those outputs can either enhance the product that you're working on, or they can expedite the efficiency of you producing that product. And that's as an example of how I personally try to incorporate it into my life every day.
The last question really isn't much of a question, to be honest. It's more of like a plug for yourself and for OneFirefly. So if you had 2 minutes to kind of just give an elevator pitch for yourself and OneFirefly, this would be your time.
I'm a niche agency, so I say no to far more people than I say yes to. I believe the key to success is the riches in the niches. And so I'm very adamant about only serving one type of customer. And I say no to, generally the referrals and or the friends or the neighbors or the aunts and the uncles, the realtors and the dentists and the lawyers. It's not that those people don't need assistance. It's just that my business is not finely tuned to serve them. That's no judgment against those industries. It's just, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at. Right. And so, but I do love to help people. I do love to help other entrepreneurs. I think the journey is lonely and hard and scary. And so if I can be of value or counsel or help or assistance or point anyone in any direction there, I'd be happy to do so. A lot of what we do here at OneFirefly has been purchased with lots of mistakes and lots of, expensive mistakes in cases. 17 years of entrepreneurship means we've had lots of opportunities to get it wrong. And the more we've gotten it wrong, it means and as long as we're paying attention, it means we have a better probability of getting it right or getting it right more often. And so if I can be helpful to anyone in that way, certainly reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also, my Instagram is private, but if you do reach out and say, hey, you heard me on the show and you want to follow me on Instagram, it's more personal. You could, but I would say I'm active. I'm a little bit active personally on Twitter. I'm more of a voyeur on Twitter. I like to, consume information from news sources and run some of my hobbies there. But you can send me a private message on LinkedIn and say you heard me on the show and you'd want to chat, and happy to chat with anybody anytime. I love to build my network and meet interesting people.
But I just want to say thank you so much for doing this with us and giving us such a great explanation to everything that I kind of asked.
Aaron, my pleasure, man. Doing what you're doing, it's hard to be sitting in that seat and to try to keep a show moving forward. So it's
super hard when the other person is a lot better than you. So it's kind of like more nervous, and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me see if I can do it.
No, man, I think you did great. I'm happy you did it. Proud of you and happy to participate.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.